Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. My name is Mira. I'm 34, and for the last 3 nights, I've been lying awake staring at the ceiling, trying to understand if I caused this distance, or if I only finally gave it a name. It's strange, isn't it? How the very thing that used to make you feel desired, can suddenly start to feel like pressure. Like performance. Like a trap dressed in compliments. That's how it was with me and Jonah. When we first met, really met, I was 29. He was magnetic in that effortless way. Not the loudest in the room, but the one you keep glancing at because he's already looking at you. I remember our first date vividly. He told me I had a quiet fire, and I didn't even know what that meant, but it made my stomach do this flip. Back then, everything he did felt romantic. His hand brushing the back of my neck when we stood in line at the grocery store. The way he'd pull me into him when I was brushing my teeth, kiss my shoulder, and whisper, "God, you drive me crazy." I felt wanted. Seen. Craved. But that was 5 years ago. Somewhere along the way, the fire turned into heat lamps, bright and glaring, but cold. Jonah didn't stop touching me. He just started doing it like it was owed to him. Like it was built into the schedule. Morning kiss, lunch text, evening gropes. On cue. And the more I noticed the pattern, the more I couldn't unsee it. I started pulling away, gently at first, replacing a kiss with a smile, dodging his hand on my waist when I was washing dishes, shrugging off a touch when I was in the middle of something else. One night, he reached over in bed and slid his hand under my shirt without saying anything. And instead of melting into it like I used to, I flinched. Not because I didn't want him, but because it felt like I wasn't there. That night, I finally said it. I told him I felt like he sexualized me too much, that sometimes I just wanted to be held, or talked to, or looked at without that hunger in his eyes. That I wanted affection without expectation. He looked stunned. Hurt. Like I'd slapped him. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just said, "Okay," and rolled over. And ever since, nothing. 6 months now. Not one kiss he started. Not one flirtatious comment. Not one stolen glance. Just polite pecks when I initiate them, distant small talk over dinner, and a weird carefulness, like he's scared to touch me at all. Like I've become a minefield instead of a woman he used to want. At first, I felt relief. I had space to breathe. But now, it feels like I'm starving. I miss him. I miss being seen. I miss feeling like I mattered to someone, not just for my body, but for how I lit up when I laughed, or the way I nested in his arms on Sundays. I miss the version of him that chased me, and the version of me that felt worth chasing. We still sleep in the same bed. We still share groceries, bills, and weekend errands. We still function. But that's what scares me. We're functioning. Not living. Not loving. And here's the twist, now I'm the one who feels like the bad guy. I said I wanted space. I said I wanted emotional intimacy. I said I didn't want to feel reduced to sex. But I never meant I didn't want connection. I never meant I didn't want him. The moment I realized something had truly changed. It wasn't when the touching stopped. It was 2 weeks ago. I was in the kitchen making coffee. He walked in, shirtless, sleepy-eyed, freshly showered, the way he used to look when he'd lift me onto the counter before I even finished pouring my cup. I looked at him, waiting for that spark. And nothing came. Not from him. Not from me. Just 2 people, walking around each other like strangers in a house we both still pay rent for. And all I could think was, is this what I asked for? Or is this what I feared? Because maybe the worst kind of silence isn't when someone stops talking. It's when they stop seeing you. Jonah's a physical therapist. He spends his days helping people move again, after surgeries, after accidents, after life wrecks them a little. He's gentle with his patients, calm with their pain, always offering his body to support someone else's healing. And maybe that's why it stings more. Because he used to offer that gentleness to me too. Now, it's like he's turned every ounce of it outward, to his patients, to his coworkers, to the woman in the elevator he lets step out first. And I get the rest. Whatever's left when he shuts the apartment door at 7:15 every night. Tonight, he came home tired, as always. I was folding laundry on the couch when he sat beside me, close but not quite touching, and rested his hand on my thigh. I froze. It was automatic, this bracing, this holding my breath feeling I didn't used to have with him. I hated myself for it. But it felt performative. Like he was checking a box. Like he thought this single, lukewarm gesture, would make everything okay. I shifted slightly, just enough to remove his hand without making a scene. He didn't react. Just sighed and reached for the remote. It felt like a slap. Because in his mind, I'd asked for this. I'd asked for less. But he never really understood what I meant. I didn't want less connection, I wanted deeper connection. I didn't want him to stop desiring me, I wanted him to see me. When we first moved in together, I used to sit on the kitchen counter while he cooked. He'd talk to me about patience, joke about how one old man kept asking if I was single. We used to talk. Now, our dinners are quiet. He eats fast. I scroll my phone. A few days ago, I tried to talk to him. I asked if he was okay. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Yeah. I'm fine. Why? I don't know, I said. You've been quiet lately. He gave a half smile and said, didn't want to say the wrong thing again. And I felt that. Like a punch to the gut. That's how he sees it now, me, a problem he doesn't know how to fix. An emotional equation he failed once and is now afraid to even attempt. Last Sunday, we went to brunch with his friends. I dressed up a little, soft sweater, that deep green skirt he used to love. I was hoping, maybe, he'd notice. He didn't. Not when I walked into the room. Not when I reached for his hand under the table. He pulled away gently, almost absent-mindedly, to check his phone. And then, on the way home, he tried. He rested his hand on the small of my back as we walked. Brushed my hair back as I got into the passenger seat. But I couldn't feel it. I wanted him to ask how I was. I wanted him to say something real. I wanted to be met where I was, not touched like a checkpoint on a list. That night, he reached for me in bed. Not sexually, just wrapped an arm around my waist, pressed his chest to my back. And I tried. I really tried to settle into it. But it felt too late. I whispered, "Do you still want me?" He didn't answer right away. "I don't know how to want you in a way that's safe for you," he said finally. And God, that broke me. Because he thought this was about danger. About sexualizing. About shame. And not about the ache of being touched by someone who no longer sees your soul. I turned over to face him, trying to explain, but he was already half asleep. And I laid there, wide awake, thinking, we used to talk about everything. Now, I don't even know how to tell him I'm starving in the middle of a feast he thinks he's preparing with love. It was a Thursday night, and I was chopping bell peppers for dinner, half listening to an old podcast I'd already heard. Jonah walked in behind me. I heard his familiar footsteps, slow and tired. He leaned in and kissed the back of my neck. I stiffened. He didn't say anything, just lingered a second too long. Then he gave my hip a soft squeeze, the way he always used to when he passed me in the kitchen. It used to feel playful. Intimate. Familiar. But now, it made my stomach twist. I moved slightly, enough to make it clear I wasn't in the mood, though I wasn't even sure what that mood was anymore. He stepped back, didn't comment, just opened the fridge and grabbed a beer. We went on like normal, or whatever our version of normal has become. The clinks of cutlery, the gentle hum of the fan overhead. Small talk about traffic. A few sentences about a patient he helped that day. I nodded in the right places. Smiled when I remembered to. After dinner, he sat on the couch, flipping through a show we both used to love. I came over and curled up next to him. It wasn't automatic, it felt like a choice. An effort. I wanted to feel close again. I wanted to try. His arm went around me. I let it. Then his hand moved, slowly, lightly, tracing down my arm, then to my hip. He leaned in and kissed my cheek. I turned toward him, and our lips met, soft, familiar, but flat. No spark. No heat. No connection. He deepened the kiss, just a little, like he was testing to see if the door was open. And that's when I panicked. I pulled back. Not dramatically, just enough. I didn't even look him in the eye. I reached for the remote and said, "Let's just watch." He paused, then leaned back and nodded. Sure. And just like that, the space between us grew a little colder again. I hated it. Every moment of it. Because the truth is, I want it. I want to melt into him the way I used to. I want to feel that instinctive yes in my body, not this mental debate that plays on loop every time he touches me. It's like I'm holding a part of myself hostage. I feel guilty when I flinch, embarrassed when I hesitate, and confused that I can love him and still feel wrong in my own skin around him. Sometimes I see him trying. I know he's trying. And it just makes the guilt sharper. Last week, he slapped my butt lightly as I walked past him in the hallway, something he used to do every other day. It was meant to be flirty. Casual. But it landed like a thud. I snapped. "Can you not?" I said. Not yelling, just cold. He looked stunned, almost apologetic. "Sorry. I didn't think, not right now," I mumbled, already regretting it. He nodded slowly. Okay. That night, we went to bed back to back. His side of the mattress felt 1,000 miles away. And I lay there, staring at the ceiling again, thinking about how we got here. I used to crave his touch. I used to initiate it. Now I'm overthinking every kiss, measuring every hug, wondering when affection stopped feeling like love and started feeling like a negotiation I didn't remember agreeing to. I don't want this distance. I don't want to live in my head every time he reaches for me. But somewhere along the way, the wires crossed. And all I can hear in my own mind, over and over, is, why does everything have to turn into sex? We hadn't been out to dinner in weeks. Maybe months. Jonah made a reservation at our old spot, the quiet place with the dim lighting and the little handwritten menus that changed daily. I used to love that place. It always felt like ours. I even wore mascara, which felt like a small miracle. Slipped on a dress I hadn't worn in over a year. He noticed. Said softly, "You look really beautiful." And I smiled like it didn't catch me off guard. We sat across from each other, and for the first 15 minutes, it was almost easy. A shared bottle of wine. Laughs about the terrible jazz playing over the speakers. I almost felt like myself again. Us again. Then he reached across the table and took my hand. "I've missed this," he said. I nodded. "Yeah. Me too." He squeezed my hand. "I've missed you." I felt a wave of emotion rise, sudden, confusing. I pulled my hand away under the pretense of reaching for my glass. My stomach was tightening. "I'm still here," I said, smiling too hard. He didn't notice the strain. Or maybe he did and ignored it. "I know," he said. I want things to feel good between us again. I'm trying to give you space, but I don't always know what the rules are." There it was. The rules. My chest burned. "You make it sound like I wrote a manual," I said too sharply. He blinked. "I didn't mean, you act like I gave you a list of things not to do, and now you're just checking boxes and hoping not to set me off." He leaned back in his chair. "That's not fair, Mira." "No," I said, louder now. "What's not fair is that I tell you I'm overwhelmed, that I feel objectified in my own relationship, and instead of listening, you go silent. You shut down. You stop touching me completely. You don't even look at me anymore. And now I'm supposed to feel bad about that?" He stared at me, mouth slightly open. We were no longer the quietest table in the restaurant. "You told me I sexualize you too much," he said, voice lower now. "What was I supposed to do with that? Every time I reached for you, you pulled away. You flinched. You looked at me like I was disgusting." I blinked hard, trying to hold it in. But the tears came anyway. I reached up and wiped one off my cheek quickly, angry that it escaped. "You didn't even ask me what I meant," I whispered. "You just disappeared." He sat still. Silent. Maybe processing. Maybe hurting. I couldn't tell anymore. I grabbed my bag and stood up. "I need air." He didn't stop me. I stepped outside into the night, the breeze cool against my flushed skin. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. And I couldn't tell if I was mad at him or myself. Because the truth? I had pushed him away. I had recoiled. I had made him feel like the bad guy. But I hadn't meant to make him feel unwanted. I'd meant to say I needed to feel something more than just desired. I wanted to feel understood. I wanted him to notice when I was withdrawn. Ask me why I hadn't laughed in days. Wrap his arms around me without assuming it had to lead to more. I leaned against the building and let the tears come freely now. Makeup smudged. Breath shaky. I felt guilty. Confused. So tired. Because I still loved him. I still wanted him. But I didn't want to feel like every soft moment was a setup for sex. I didn't want affection that came with a countdown. I didn't want every embrace to be a transaction I didn't sign up for. I just wanted to feel safe again. Inside his arms. Inside his eyes. Inside this relationship that used to be a home, and lately feels like a trap I accidentally helped build. And the worst part? I couldn't stop asking myself, was it better when I felt too sexualized, or now, when I feel like a ghost in my own love story? It's been 3 weeks since the dinner. 3 weeks of quietly folded laundry, dishes put away without a word, and polite nods in the hallway like we're housemates, not lovers who used to giggle under bed sheets and whisper about growing old together. I wake up to the sound of his coffee mug clinking against the kitchen counter. He always pours a cup for me. Still does, even now. But he doesn't wait around anymore. He leaves it on the table, steaming and untouched by the time I come out of the bedroom. He's quieter now. Careful, like he's afraid to take up too much space. I hear him on work calls, his voice still warm for strangers. Patients. Coworkers. Then I hear him sigh as he hangs up, and the house returns to silence. Sometimes I catch him watching me, not the way he used to, with softness and pull, but with a kind of quiet grief. Like he's still searching for the woman he fell in love with, wondering when she slipped behind glass. And I miss him. Not just his body, not just his touch, but the way he used to lean into me mid-sentence. The way he used to fight to understand me, even when I wasn't making sense. Now, he seems tired. Worn. Not angry, just defeated. I keep playing the last night over in my head. My voice rising. His shoulders dropping. The way he looked at me like he was realizing something was breaking and he didn't know how to stop it. It's not that I don't understand why he withdrew. I do. I pushed him away. Over and over. With flinches. With sighs. With silence. I didn't give him a roadmap, just red lights with no explanation. And when he finally stopped trying, I blamed him for that too. But it's also not all my fault. I needed him to see me. To ask what was really wrong. To understand that not all touch is comfort. That sometimes, I just needed to cry into his chest without worrying it would turn into something else. We both failed, in different ways. Yesterday, I found one of his old hoodies tucked at the back of the closet. I held it for a second longer than I should have. Buried my face in it. It still smelled like him. And I realized I missed even the simple things, his jokes, his laugh, the way he used to rest his hand on my knee while driving. This isn't what I wanted. I never wanted him to stop loving me, only to love me differently. And maybe I didn't know how to say that clearly. Maybe I still don't. Tonight, he came home late. Tossed his keys into the bowl like always. I was already on the couch, pretending to read, heart pounding at the sound of the door. He didn't say anything at first. Just walked past, gave a small nod. But then he paused. "Dinner's in the fridge," I offered softly. He nodded again. "Thanks." And that was it. I sat there long after he'd gone to shower, staring at the page in my book without reading a single word. I want to try again. I want to fix what we broke, or at least try to speak the same language again. But I also don't know where to start. Or if he even wants me to. If he's already halfway out the door in his heart. Still, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll say something. Anything. I owe him that. Even if all I can manage is, "Do you still want to talk to me?" He didn't sleep in our bed that night. I heard the sofa creak sometime after midnight and the rustle of him adjusting a blanket. The sound made something inside me ache. It wasn't anger anymore. Not even tension. Just the quiet grief of two people who don't know how to find each other again. The next morning, I made coffee. Left his mug by the microwave, just like he always did for me. It felt like an offering. A question. He came in, hair messy, eyes heavy from sleep. We stood in the kitchen for a moment, just stood. Not quite facing each other, not quite avoiding each other. I spoke first. "I miss you," I said. Quietly. Almost afraid of the truth in it. He looked at me. Really looked. "I've been here the whole time," he said. No blame, just weariness. I nodded. "I know. I just didn't know how to reach you without losing myself." He leaned back against the counter. "And I didn't know how to love you without wanting all of you." That sentence broke something open in me, because it wasn't selfish. It was just honest. "I thought if I said no enough, you'd ask why," I whispered. He exhaled slowly. "I didn't want to push. You were already pulling away." Silence again. But not cold. Just full. Then, carefully, I stepped toward him. Reached out. Touched his arm. "Can I hug you?" He nodded. It was a simple hug, arms wrapped around his chest, my cheek resting below his collarbone. But it felt like stepping back into the doorway of something we both wanted to come home to. We didn't kiss. We didn't talk more. We just held each other for a long time in the kitchen, surrounded by the smell of coffee and the hum of everything left unsaid. Later that day, we made a list. Boundaries. Little things. A commitment to talk before touching. To ask instead of assume. To hold space for no, without punishing each other with silence. It wasn't magical. It didn't erase everything. But it felt like something real. He slept in our bed again that night. Not curled around me, not touching, just there. Breathing steady. Familiar. And as I lay beside him, I realized we might not ever be what we once were. But maybe, just maybe, we could become something new. Something better. Something honest that I didn't think it would all unravel like that. One sentence. One truth, spoken too late and maybe too clumsily: you sexualize me too much. It wasn't meant to be a rejection. It was a cry. A whisper. A shaky attempt to name something I didn't fully understand at the time, that I was starting to disappear inside the person I thought I had to be to keep the romance alive. Desirable. Playful. Always on. I didn't realize how much I had learned to perform love rather than feel safe in it. I want to tell you something I've only recently accepted: intimacy isn't just about closeness, it's about safety. It's about being known. And I think I stopped feeling known somewhere along the way, even though Jonah loved me in all the ways he understood how. He touched me because that's how he felt close. And when I pulled away, it felt like a rejection of his entire heart. But I wasn't saying, don't love me. I was saying, please don't love me only like this. It took months of silence, and one painfully quiet dinner, for me to see his grief. And I'll admit it now, I was so caught in my own need to be understood that I forgot he had his own hurt, his own confusion, his own fears of being unwanted. He wasn't a villain. He was just scared. Same as me. I used to think good relationships meant never needing to say anything out loud. That the right person would just know. But now I know better. Love doesn't come with telepathy, it comes with effort. And mistakes. And sometimes, uncomfortable truths that don't fit neatly into a conversation. It comes with saying, I want to be close to you, but right now I need you to just hold my hand. I miss being desired, but not at the cost of being emotionally invisible. Can you see me? Really see me, even when I'm not performing for you? Jonah stayed. But he changed. I did, too. We had to learn a new language. We had to ask instead of assume. We had to rebuild trust around affection, learning that sometimes a hug is just a hug, and sometimes wanting space isn't the same as withdrawing love. And I had to learn something even harder, to forgive myself for confusing my own boundaries. For not knowing what I needed until I lost what I had. You see, sometimes we outgrow the roles we were given in our relationships: the sexy one, the strong one, the one who always initiates, the one who never says no. And when we start to step out of those roles, the whole system shakes. But shaking isn't always breaking. Sometimes it's just the sound of two people moving the furniture inside their shared home, trying to make it livable again. There are still days Jonah kisses me and I hesitate. There are still days I crave closeness and feel unsure how to ask for it. But the difference now is, we talk about it. We name the awkwardness. We give each other room to fumble and try again. And that, to me, is the sexiest thing we've ever built: trust without demand. Love without pressure. So, to anyone listening who's ever felt like the bad guy for having needs, or like love is slipping through your fingers the moment you stop saying yes to everything, you're not broken. You're just trying to be real. And real is messy. Real is hard. But real is where love actually lives. Even if you have to lose each other a little, to finally meet again in the middle.